You gave me a book once, and I don't remember the name of the author, but the thing I remember about the book was that the hypothesis of the author was that there are three things in the world that you can trust. And one of the things that you could trust was the ground beneath your feet. Do you know who I'm speaking of? Does this strike a resonant bell?
Was that the Chogyam Trungpa's Path of the Warrior, Shambhala?
It could have been.
Yeah, I think it was.
That the prerequisite to betrayal is trust.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the essay on the animus and the mother's milk and
yes.
the psychology
That's
essay.
exactly what I'm talking about. Can you recall, because this is probably 10 years ago, can you recall, who was the writer? And
I don't remember. It's a German psychologist, and it was this sort of really heady intellectual essay on the foundations of human psychology.
And one of them was
that, trust is something that we're all looking for immediately when we're born. And the first feeling of trust and safety that we get is the universe of our mother's body, which is, he calls it, the mother's milk, which is before you experience the world, which is day and night and hot and cold and life and death, you don't even realize the universe is there. Your universe is your mother's body, and it's warm, and it provides, sustenance and protection. So it's a perfect universe. And then when you are taken away from your mother's body and you grow up and you're expected to walk around on your own, it's a great feeling of betrayal. You feel that this implication that the universe was safe and warm and sustaining and nurturing, that implication that your mother gave you through just being was a lie. And then suddenly you're thrust into a cold and dangerous universe. And, I forget the specifics of the essay because it has been 10 years, but I gave it to you because I thought it was really profound. And, it's the idea of life being fundamentally a betrayal, and that a betrayal of that trust, and that, the story of Adam and Eve is a metaphor, not a documentary, about what it's like to be, torn away from the idyllic fantasy of childhood into the adult world of real, pain and suffering. And I thought it was a very profound essay. And it also spoke about, I think, it spoke about, trusting that the ground will be there every time you take a step. I mean, we take that for granted. But I think he was using that as a metaphor for how there are things in all of our lives that we, at one point, take for granted as being certain, and then there are moments in all of our lives when that certainty is torn away.
Without being specific, how much territory of the ground beneath your feet that you trusted has been torn away?
I mean, that's a really deep question. I actually think quite a bit. And I think when you're young, things seem to be pretty self-evident. And I think that's true of a lot of people I know. I mean, I know it was true for me, and it was true of a lot of people I know, that when you're 13 to 20, you really feel like you figured everything out. And it feels very much like the existential crisis that you're witnessing in the adults around you are really self-indulgent and meaningless, and as a teenager it seems like the world is so obvious and you live and you die and things are what they seem. And then as you get older, things like your best friend crashing into a wall on a motorcycle, or your girlfriend cheating on you, or you cheating on your girlfriend, or whatever it is, you go through traumatic events that make you feel less certain about things, even though you could have easily anticipated those events as a cynical, self-assured teenager. And a teenager would say, well, obviously, bad things happen. But the difference is, once they happen, actually experiencing them changes you. It's like the difference between telling a teenager, buckle your seatbelt, and the teenager says, sure, I know why I'm buckling my seatbelt. I don't know what the big deal is, But then the car crash happens and something's changed in you. The way in which you buckle your seatbelt from that day on, after your first car crash, is not the same way in which you buckled it before, even though you're still buckling your seatbelt. So I think the process of getting older is a process of relinquishing a degree of self-assuredness, but the thing that you gain is a sort of humbleness in the face of the universe, and you start to feel like that you don't know it all, and you haven't figured it all out. And in a way, that's more comfortable, for me anyway, than walking around thinking you figured it all out. Because somehow, it's a very unstable universe to uphold, a universe in which you figured everything out. It's a very fragile, delicate universe that becomes threatened at almost every turn when you're a teenager. And I think that's where a lot of teenage angst comes from. Mm-hmm. But then once you get through that, rigidity of self-assuredness, and then you sort of let go and realize, well, actually, I don't know anything, and I'm not as self-confident as I thought. It's kind of a weight off your shoulders, because you no longer have to uphold that very fragile existence. And so I think, in a way, the older I get, even though the less confident I am in my understanding of the universe, the more relaxed I feel internally, because I no longer have to uphold that confidence. You know what I mean? I mean, that may seem silly, but the older I get, the less I know, but the more relaxed I feel about not knowing it.
Yeah.